Ladies, gentlemen, educators, welcome to Leader Chat. My name is Jeff Rose, and today is going to be great. It's going to be a great Leader Chat, and let me tell you why. I am working with a new vice president in leadership. He is new to our team. His name's Alan Smith. He's an incredible man, great educator, wonderful leader, and we are going through our process. And you may know we go through a process to determine who is the right person to invite into the Leader Chat. What people can shed new light on relevant topics? What experts do we need to have to the table that are often in the kind of the educational lane, but also, as you know, we expand outside of just the educational lane, really focusing on messages that we believe educational leaders need to hear. He said there is somebody you need to think about. His name is John Hope Bryant. And I asked him, who's that? And he said, well, he described it a little bit, described John to me a little bit. And I was still curious. And he said, I'll tell you what, just start listening to him, just start following him. And then you tell me if you think he's the right leader for us to invite. So I did. I started tracking John Hope Bryant. I started listening to his messages on social media. I ordered his most recent book. I started reading that. I went back to Alan. I said, yes. I mean, this is a slam dunk. You are absolutely right. We need him on this Leader Chat. We reached out. He was gracious enough to accept, and we're going to be talking here any minute with John Hope Bryant. And let me tell you about him. He is a renowned entrepreneur, thought leader, and advocate for economic empowerment, widely recognized as a leading voice in financial inclusion and racial wealth equity. Named among Time Magazine's The Closers in 2024 for his work on closing the racial wealth gap, Bryant serves as CEO of Operation Hope, the largest nonprofit for financial literacy in the U.S., and is a respected advisor on non-national financial policy. He has collaborated with Fortune 500 companies and government leaders, contributing to impactful initiatives like the Freedman Bank Forum and co-founding the Financial Literacy for All initiative with Walmart CEO. His best-selling books, including Financial Literacy for All, are widely celebrated, making him a best-selling author in economics and business. Through his extensive work, Bryant has transformed financial empowerment, helping bridge economic disparities for underserved communities across the U.S., supported by influential figures like Oprah Winfrey, who honored him with the Use Your Life Award. Bryant has mobilized millions in capital for Black-owned businesses and launched initiatives like the 1 Million Black Business Initiative, which earned a Fast Company World-Changing Ideas Award. As a chairman and CEO of multiple ventures, including the Promise Homes Company, he maintains a strong media presence, reaching over 3 million followers on social platforms with over 100 million views on his video series. We are thrilled to have John with us. So without further ado, welcome John Hope Bryant. John, it is great to see you, and thank you so much for being here. And by the way, we're kind of in each other's backyard, right? You're in Atlanta. I'm up here in Alpharetta, about 20 minutes away. And I know we were trying to get together face to face, but this is pretty darn good to see you. Thank you for being here.
My honor to do it. And Alan Smith is a great guy. I was so excited to hear that you guys decided to go up market and get some real class and substance around there. I'm sure that he just joins a team of other people of class and substance, because that's how you roll, Jeff.
Hey, he's smiling and blushing right now, I promise.
Yeah. Eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles, but they do respect and admire each other and tend to hang out in the same region. So there you go.
Well, listen, John, I took your bio and I shortened it, and I butchered it. What did I miss? What would our listeners, our followers need to know about you before we start to kind of dig into the content and everything that you're going to be talking with us about today?
Unleashing untapped human potential at scale is my calling. Finishing the unfinished work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. around poverty eradication and empowerment. Advancing the unfinished work of Frederick Douglass and President Abraham Lincoln of 1865, the Freedmen's Bank, which was chartered after the Civil War to teach freed slaves about money. modern day financial literacy. Abraham Lincoln created an environment after the Civil War where he offered 40 acres to formerly enslaved people, Union soldiers, then a mule for hard work, working on that farm. It wasn't a giveaway program. It was industry and self-reliance and self-determination. At the next month came the bank. So January, February, March, those 3 months, land, mule, bank. And then he promised the right to vote, and he was assassinated in April 1865 for dreaming too big, I guess. 100 years later, Abraham Lincoln was followed by Dr. King, who was assassinated 100 years later, same month, April 1968, for dreaming too big, I guess, about redeeming the soul of America from the triple evils of war, racism, and poverty. And he had made advances in racism agenda and the war agenda, and I believe was going to make significant advancements on the poverty agenda. Unfortunately for him, he was talking about a redistribution of wealth as a proper pastor and man of the cloth would do, not a creation of wealth agenda, but really a distribution of wealth, and that got him killed, I believe. It just so happens April is Financial Literacy Month, and I believe that financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation. And so everything I'm doing is around building an economic infrastructure for the least of these God's children, not from a moral basis, but from a money basis. I like math because it doesn't have an opinion, as I keep saying. And the math of the data around our work is undeniable. And so we created the largest economic infrastructure for the underserved already in the country. We've created the largest financial inclusion holding company. I run it in the country today. 400 employees, $100 million in annual cash flow, $4.8 billion of invested capital over 32 years, 1,500 offices in 42 states, clients in all 50 states, a philanthropic focus, so doing well and doing good. My nonprofit, Operation Hope, is the largest financial literacy coaching organization in America. You said that. We're the only nonprofit allowed to operate inside of a bank branch in U.S. history. We also inspired the renaming of the Freedmen's Bank on the White House campus, and no one has ever inspired the White House to rename a building in the history of this country. That's across from Treasury and the White House. I tip my hand to them for doing it because the inertia of Washington would suggest that should have never happened. And we made financial literacy federal policy. I'm going to try to make it K through 12 policy next, so that it's funded and embedded in schools. But I'll come to that later in the trajectory. We have a housing a real estate group separate from Operation Hope. This is my for-profit. We're the largest minority owner of single-family rental homes in America. I built that and sold that company into a joint venture 2 years ago for $121 million at 700 homes. My next goal is 7,000 homes. I have another joint venture not yet announced, which will expand my affordable housing platform. We have a big media company. Well, big. We have one that gets 1 million to 3 million views a week. Last week, one video alone got 4.5 million views, just one video. And that's not including the traditional media partnerships we have with NBC, CNBC, and Time Magazine and iHeart, which includes my own podcast. And then finally, we have an advisory joint venture, or an advisory division, which has a joint venture with Ernst & Young, a collaboration with Ernst & Young, et cetera. So I am trying to get away from the me and get into the we, to institutionalize what we do and embed it into society and embed it into the business plan for America. I actually wrote something called the Business Plan for America, because I believe that for the first time in history, our future relies on all of us. I mean, God has a sense of humor. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. We in 1950, America was 90% white. That's not a racial comment, just math, which meant that what Dr. King did and Andrew Young did was morally correct on behalf of the nation. The nation just did the right thing. And I commend non-black leaders for working with Dr. King. What I'm talking about is not about white or black as in race, or red or blue as in politics, which is what most people argue about. I'm talking about the green.
Yeah.
And for the first time in history, you cannot continue as the leader of the free world in the biggest economy in the world. You never had one without the other, by the way. You never had a leader of the free world that wasn't the largest economy of the free world at the same time. Um, if we want to continue in the next 20 years in that role, we're going to have to help the least of these God's children to become capitalists at scale.
Well, you can probably see now why I didn't make an attempt to describe what you just described to us, and this is important for our audience as well as for you to hear, John. Is that while all those things are actually just mind-boggling impressive, know this: I would never claim to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I am literate and I do read, and so and I do my homework before these conversations. And I've done my homework this time as well. And this is what I think is important. I want to back up because if I were to just listen to not just accomplishments, but your efforts and your focus and your mission in this world, that's impressive. But what's really, really interesting is how it came to be. And what I love about your book, Financial Literacy for All, is it describes the narrative of how you came to be what you are and your passion, which, by the way, goes back to, your childhood, right? The influences of several people. And rather than me tell that story, I think I want you to touch on that because that's really important. You're not just a person with an opinion and not just a person with an incredible portfolio. You're a person with a past that has led you to this place. And people need to hear that, or at least I felt like that when I read it.
Well, I appreciate you saying it. That's not something that I can say. It's only someone else can observe about me. I think what you said about yourself, anything close to it, it's arrogant, it's obnoxious, and it's inappropriate. I'm just out here swinging at the bat. The only bat I believe is worth swinging at. And I'm all in because I think this can change everything. It's like a drop in the ocean that creates a ripple and a wave that transcends time, space, and place and goes around the ocean. It goes around the world. Literally 70% of the world is water. So if you put the right drop at the right place, you create, literally change in the world's dynamics because we're all connected. My talking about connection, all this goes back to my background, but my background's connected to my forefathers and foremothers. My second great grandfather, it was George Young. And in the Civil War, he was a slave that decided after the Emancipation Proclamation, he took up Lincoln's offer of those behind enemy lines to take up arms as part of the Union Army and to join the fight for what was right. Even though he was enslaved, he decided that he wanted to fight for justice. And so George Young became one of 7,000 officers in the black troops and defended Memphis, including defending those who had enslaved him, who decided to push to side with what was right, the Union cause. So I've always had social justice in my bones, going back to George Young, and self-determination. My grandfather, R.B. Smith, on my dad's side, was a sharecropper born in 1871. No one was giving out memos about slavery was over, so my guess is he was also partially enslaved during part of his time. But he was also trying to self-determine himself. He was a sharecropper. He was a precursor to a businessman. But he was financially illiterate, I'm sure, and he was completely preyed upon by those who owned the land. And then my father was a businessman with a high school education, who was an incredible hustler, but confused making money with being profitable. And my mother, and I'm an entrepreneur. My great grandmother was a slave. My grandmother owned a shotgun shack in East St. Louis. My mother has owned 7 homes, and I own 700. So I'm not a genius. I'm role modeling. You model what you see. And so many kids in my neighborhoods I care about only see rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers. You can't scale a rap star. You can't scale an athlete, meaning millions of, and you shouldn't want to scale a drug dealer. So I was trying to figure out how this system works. And after seeing the death of my family net worth over money, domestic abuse, number one cause for divorce is money. Number one cause for domestic abuse is money. Number one cause for heart attacks is stress. Number one cause for stress is money. If your day is not about God or love, your day is about money. And nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. So my dad had a really crappy credit score. It didn't understand money, just understood how to make it and spend it. My mother was a great saver, but he didn't see her as his partner. He saw her as a cute woman he married. So my mother, once they had a situation where my dad took some money she'd raised to send my brother to college of his choice, and he robbed her of that opportunity. She had two younger children at home after my brother. And like, that's not going to happen to my two other kids. So I'm out. So it just dawned on me this week, actually, this part of the story. I never told this part of the story before. My mother, who could have left my dad penniless because this is California, community property state, she had 3 children. So she could have gone to court, got the house, and my dad would have had to move somewhere else. She left the house. This just dawned on me. My mother wanted freedom so bad and did not begrudge my father his choices. Did not want to de-dignify him. She just had a different vision. She left, took her kids, left him with the house. He ultimately lost it, by the way. We lost everything, the gas station, the house, the 8-unit apartment building. This is the absolute underscoring of how important financial literacy is and how corrosive financial illiteracy is. We had all these assets, Jeff. We had a gas station. We had an 8-unit apartment building we bought for $18,000 in California. We owned our own home. We lost it all because my dad could make it but couldn't keep it. And when your outflow exceeds your inflow, then your overhead will be your downfall. My mother went to go live with somebody she said was my auntie. She wasn't. It was her girlfriend. And she saved money to buy our own home in Compton. And the guy who we lived with was murdered in front of me for selling drugs around the corner, trying to take care of his family and mine. He had saved my life when I was living with him. I had fallen on his porch and was swallowing my tongue. He cleared my throat passage. So he was my hero. And he died literally he was murdered in front of me by drug dealers trying to make a point. You don't sell drugs in my neighborhood. By the way, you don't own the block. You don't own the corner. This is financial literacy. The city owns the block. Even if you want criminal activity, like this is just stupid. Like you don't own the corner, right? Keep in mind, the house always wins, Jeff. I mean, Al Capone got jailed and ultimately died in jail for tax evasion. Tax evasion. They didn't get him for murder and mayhem. They got Al Capone, the greatest gangster of the 20th century, on tax evasion. The house always wins. So
That's what my dad tells me all the time, Jeff. The house always wins. And it's a Vegas perspective.
So anyway, to make a long story short, we moved to Compton. I saw my best friend murdered. Didn't see him murdered, but he was murdered on my block with my next door neighbor who sold drugs. And George was smarter than me. So there goes the theory that just because you're smart, everything's going to work out for you. You have to have good habits. The Bible says to be poor, Proverbs, to be poor is not to not have anything. To be poor is not to not do anything. And lazy hands make a man poor. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like obsessed when I get to Compton. I've seen 2 murders, experienced the death of our net worth. I'm done. Like, I don't want prison, probation, parole, or death. How do I get out of this hood legally? How do I become a Pied Piper to lead other people out en masse? God answers the call. White banker. So now I'm not allergic to or afraid of white people. White male banker, 6'2", red tie, white shirt, blue suit, 6'2", walks in my classroom, teaches me financial literacy. And unlike my other classmates, I was paying attention. Changed my life, man. And I asked him, what do you do for a living? And how did you get rich legally? Man, I was dead serious. And he said, I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs. And I said, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if it's legal and you're financing it,
I'm in.
and then, of course, I said, by the way, are there more like you? Are you it? He laughed. It's just like, a lot of what your audience needs to understand is, like, I wrote a book called The Memo, and a white, wealthy friend of mine called me and said, "That's the stupidest book I ever read." I said, he was a friend of mine, so I knew it was a high frequency comment becoming next. Well, why was it stupid? Well, I was born with the memo attached to my baby bib. Excuse me. Well, my mom and dad read the Wall Street Journal every morning at breakfast. We owned a home. My dad owned a business. I'd go caddy with him and ear hustle with his business partners. Like, what you're teaching was on my baby bib. This is how I grew up. So for me, it was stupid that this is not common knowledge, but it was genius because you're delivering this memo to everybody else who never got it, and is what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. And a lot of what we're going to discuss today might be presumed to be common knowledge, but it's just not. And even those who think that they know don't know, because you make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. That's why they call it making a living. Making a living, but you're not building a life. You build wealth in your sleeps. And if they're watching this or listening to this and they don't own a home, your business plan's not right. The easiest way to build wealth in America is home ownership, without question. The easiest way. And if you're not, you're renting from a guy like me. I'd love for you to rent. I'm your landlord. You're paying off my mortgage. But I want you to rent for a short period of time. It's like I want you to work at McDonald's for a short period of time. Work there and leave. Go up with education, the economic ladder, and do something else. So, when this banker said there were other bankers, I'm like, well, how many more? 10? He said maybe 10,000 in this city. There's probably 1 million in the country. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair, Jeff. 1 million. Did you say 1 million bankers? And your job is to lend poor people money? And all I got to do is prove to you I can pay it back. And I don't get dead if I default. I had to learn the word default. And he said, no, you don't get dead. Why would I kill you? No, I'll give you a notice of default. I said, wait, hold on, slow down. So you're gonna give me a piece of paper. I'm gonna borrow money from you on my dreams. I'm gonna prove I'm credit worthy. Sometimes the experiment doesn't work out. And the worst you're gonna do is give me a piece of paper that says I defaulted.
Yeah, game on.
Game on, because everybody in my neighborhood, if you turn down the wrong block, you were dead, literally dead. So what is Operation Hope doing today? Teaching the masses to become part of the classes.
Bear with me. I'm going to read this to you. The high cost of financial literacy isn't confined to individual wallets or bank accounts. It reverberates throughout our economy, slowing economic growth, exacerbating income inequality, and placing increasing burden on public resources as people who haven't saved enough for retirement or other life needs turn to the government assistance programs for help. This is why financial literacy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. I pulled that from your book. It's one of my highlighted areas. And what I realized after following and listening to you is that you're not just talking about money. I mean, You're talking about money, but it's not just money. Right? You're talking about other things, and money is the tool, it's the leverage, right? This is a mindset, etc. Now, what's interesting, and I want you to comment on this, and after tracking you, your message is kind of so acutely unique. Why is this, John? Why is it that what you're speaking comes across as unique and different and profound? Because the way you describe it, you're like, look, this is just the basics. This is the way it works. This is how you play the game, and this is the way that game can impact your life. Okay, so why is that potentially the first time anyone's ever hearing it? And maybe it has to do with the story you mentioned with the banker, but why?
No one's ever asked me this question. I must do a half dozen media interviews a week, podcast, TV, and then I got my own media platform. But no one's ever asked me this question.
Well, there you go. Well, let's write this down. Okay.
It's a really important question. The answer is that capitalism is a gladiator sport. And there's one person on one side of the table, and his or her job is to extract from you as much as they can get for the least cost. The other person on the other side of that table is you, and your job is to get the highest compensation for the least amount of input that gives you quality of life. And that's employer, employee, or capitalist and consumer. But you have different agendas. You're at the same table. You have a different agenda. There's nothing personal about it. Stop making business personal. There's nothing evil about it. It can be made evil. Money's not evil, but the love of money is evil. This is just very sort of transactional at its core. And 70% of the U.S. economy, the biggest economy in the world, is consumer spending. 70%, little known fact. 70% of those people are living paycheck to paycheck. So the capitalists want to extract from you your money to sell you something. They don't really care. I don't mean care as in that they don't care for you, but it's not their concern in that transaction that whether you can really afford that or not, or whether that leaves you better or not, or whether it's good for you for the moment or good for you for a lifetime. Cash flow will flow. It doesn't matter. You can have $100 million NBA contract and go broke, just like the trash collector can go broke, because cash will flow. The question is it flowing into an appreciating asset, or is it flowing into a depreciating asset? And your assets are not on your listeners can figure out what I was about to say.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you finance jewelry, you're financing a depreciating asset. So that's bad debt. You finance a home or a business, you're probably financing a appreciating asset, or one that has a potential for that. That's good debt. There's never been a billionaire who hasn't secured good debt. There has never been a successful city or country that did not use good debt to grow. So no one's ever taught us how the system works. Not just poor black people and brown people or poor people, middle class people listening to this, superintendents, teachers, administrators, deans, presidents of universities. No one's ever taught people how this system works, because it's no one's agenda. The poor people don't have a lobbyist in Washington. Middle class people don't have a lobbyist in Washington. So no one's explained to people that this is a capitalist democracy.
Right.
No one's explained to people that slavery was about money. We talked about the moral aspects. Slavery was about money. Jim Crow was about money. I mean, you name the topic, I'll drag it back to money. And I mean, why is a woman, this is a really bad example, Jeff, but it's so obnoxious and loud that it makes sense to your listeners. Why do you think a woman, dignified woman, 2 children, smart, why is she in a stripper club at 2 a.m. on a stripper pole with 300-pound guys throwing dollar bills at her? Because she wants to be there? That's her choice? She's immoral by nature? No, she's there for money. She's trying to take care of kids. Why is a woman with an abusive man when she's got 2 children? Money. I mean, it goes on and on and on. President Bill Clinton, a friend of mine, I've served presidents from both parties. I'm nonpartisan. I'm bipartisan, but I'm nonpartisan. This topic is a nonpartisan issue. He said it's hard to get someone to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. Ambassador Andrew Young has said to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. I can give a homeless guy $1 million. He'll be broke in 6 months if nothing else changes. So it's not about, people are just sort of looking for love in all the wrong places. People, John, all this is conversation not necessary. Just take all the wealth in the world, distribute it to everybody in the world evenly, and won't we be fine? No, you won't. Because if that's all you do, the top 3%, for which I'm now part of it, I've gone from the bottom quartile of poverty to the bottom of the top 1%. If that's all you do, the top 3%, which includes me, will get it again within 3 to 5 years because of mindset, because we understand money and you don't, because we understand how capitalism and free enterprise works and you don't. And people think that money, to your earlier point, is actually important. It's not. It's just a means for transferring value. Capital comes from the Latin root word capitas, knowledge in the head. That's literally what it means. Credit comes from the Latin root word credito, credibility. It's nothing to do with money. Banking is a trust business. So if I trust you, I'll extend credit to you, which is a form of capital.
If you extend trust to me, your question is, then what?
So banking is a trust business.
Sure.
They extend credit.
Yes.
Which is a form of capital. So debt and equity is capital. So, but people think that banks are a money platform. They think credit is something that you extend that decides how much debt you have, and they think capitalism is evil. No, all three of those things are wrong. Banking is a trust business. It's based on trust. Credit is about credibility. That's literally the definition of what credit translates to. Credito, credibility. And capitalism is knowledge in the head. It is understanding how the flow of capital works. And that's that table I described earlier with one person sitting on one side, one person sitting on the other. If you leave a negotiation, somebody listening to this is buying a house. I'm selling a house today, one of my homes in my personal portfolio. I'm going to respond to an offer I made. I'm going to sell that house. I lived in the house. I've got great memories in the house. Jeff, it's not emotional. I'm selling that house today. I won't cry a tear. No, look, they hit the number that I wanted on a list price. It's less than what I listed it for, but it's more than I, in my mind, said I would accept. Fair exchange is no robbery, and I'm going to sell it. Now, a great negotiation, please listen to me, everybody, is where everybody leaves the table slightly annoyed. A great negotiation, when it concludes, is when everybody leaves the negotiating table slightly annoyed. You didn't get everything you wanted, but you weren't screwed over. You weren't, what you got was good enough. When I sold Promise Homes Company, it was worth $150 million. I sold it for $121 million. Clearly, I left money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But two things. One, timing of the transaction. I thought that the doors of capitalism were going to change, constrict after Christmas 2021. In 2022, I thought this party has gone for so long that things are going to change in 2022. And sure enough, interest rates went up and the market seized up. So I sold it for one, because I thought it was optimal. Don't let the perfect become the death of the good. $120 million on $150 million worth of value was good enough. Paid all my debts, paid all my investors. I was fine. Number two, I took a 35% ownership interest in the new company that bought my company. So I had a chance to recoup some of that value on the back end. So I sort of have a right to play again. It's not personal. It's not emotional. It's just business.
If someone were to ask me the same question I asked Alan, so tell me about John Hope Bryant, what's his message, what's he do, etc. And I didn't have a whole lot of time. I would say, well, he's a teacher and he's an evangelist in a way. And if the person said, of what? I'd say, well, he's teaching what I guess the American dream. You mentioned the American dream in your book, right? Mm-hmm. Several times. Mm-hmm. You talk about, you believe it's possible, mm-hmm. right? And so you're not saying it as though, with an eye rolling, which sometimes we do, the American dream. You're saying, no, this is possible. You then kind of create this argument that you call the American dream deferred. By the way, it's a great section of the book.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I'm going to let you explain it. And the reason I want you to explain it is because, like I said, I feel as though what you are teaching, what you are preaching is the American dream, but it's more of a how-to, step-by-step understanding on some of the very things that you're talking about thus far. Talk to us about the American dream deferred.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the question that no one asked me ever before that I mentioned. Okay. I'm stunned, but not surprised. that there are not more of me out there talking about this. When I go give speeches, I'm the first millionaire people have ever met. I'm the first multi-millionaire people have ever met who's of color, for sure. I'm the first person who's told them how to raise their credit score. I'm the first person who told them how the credit score system works. I'm the first person who explained and unpacked why America created a tax code that supports home ownership through and why all that is it makes it advantageous to own homes. I'm the first person to explain and unpack how Wall Street works to them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And certainly the first person who then has an organization whose mission it is nationwide to be your private banker, to coach you up so that you can participate in that system. Not because people are evil, Jeff, but people are selfish. They're self-interested. They're interested in themselves. And when you become very successful, if you're insecure, you think, I don't want to share this information with anybody else. If you're insecure, I don't want to say, I've got the market, I'm good. I got mine, you go get yours. And so you don't want anybody to know your price list. You don't want anybody to know, the stocks you pick. You don't want anybody to know, the way you look at the world. That, to me, that's it. There's enough poverty to go around. There's enough prosperity to go around. And I believe that I need you to be successful in order for me to continue to be successful. Because what I understand about the economy is we're all connected. And if I'm doing well and everybody else is doing badly, we're screwed. As I put in How the Poor Can Save Capitalism, my rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. And based on my philosophy, that the business plan for America, when black people succeed, even the racist wins. Because all GDP rises for everybody, gross domestic product. And they may call me a name. The racists may call me a name. And by the way, I don't have a self-esteem problem. It's not 1 ounce of my self-esteem depends on somebody else's acceptance of me, and argue with a fool proves there are two. I don't care what you call me. It has no bearing on my sense of self. But even if the racists, when they win, says, I don't like that blank, 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 but he really helped me out. I don't like him, but I love him because he helped me. And when you look at what's going on politically right now, you have people rioting at the ballot box. They're upset and frustrated. Poor whites have been ignored for 70 years. They missed the memo. The ladder was taken away from them and never repaired. If you were middle class and white in the middle of 20th century, you could have, with a high school education, a home, a boat, a truck, and a vacation. That's gone. That's done. And no one gave them a memo to replace retraining, reorientation, to help them understand how to go from the industrial economy to the information economy, yet alone the technology economy, and what comes next. And that's a crime. It's a shame. And the result of that experiment, you have a lot of very, very upset people who think that somebody else is their problem. And they're rioting at the ballot box. And black people riot in the streets. Dr. King said that violence is often the voice of the unseen and the unheard. We can't afford to have a generation of frustrated, unhappy people. A dream deferred, not a dream destroyed. This is still America. And so what my job is, joined by partners and a whole network of people and a new movement in the suites, from the streets, is to rebuild the ladder. Rebuild the aspirational ladder so that nobody resents rich people anymore. Anybody who made their riches legitimately, without preying on people, you shouldn't resent them. You should admire them. People say, this is how you know we're screwed up, Jeff. I hate rich people. No, you don't. You hate rich people until you become rich.
Then you get over it.
What you hate is a gamed system. So I'm trying to ungame the system. And luckily, because of the internet and social media and the world has shifted to my agenda, I haven't changed. It's just the world shifted back to, the arc of the universe is long, it bends towards freedom, another Dr. King quote. I just kept doing what I was doing, and people stopped eye rolling and started eye staring. The agenda became aligned with what I was preaching all along. And now people are realizing we live in a free enterprise democracy. People salute billionaires, not governments. Governments are broke. And so what you want is, anyway,
Well,
I'm starting to preach. I need to stop. But we need to, why are we the most philanthropic nation in the world? Because of the tax code. not just because we're great people. The tax code rewards charitable contributions. Why you have 75% home ownerships among white Americans? The tax code and financial literacy, education, and generational wealth. A family that encourages understanding how money works. Why do you have 40% home ownership in Black America? The opposite of that. If you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So this is a problem, Jeff, that we can solve. I can't solve racism. Okay, I'm a force of nature according to some people, but I can't solve racism, because if you decided that your truth is the truth, and to rationalize is to tell rational lies, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to change your perspective if you've decided that's your truth because your daddy was in the Klan, your granddaddy was in the Klan, Ku Klux Klan. That's your narrative for your life. But I can change your credit score. I can help you become a homeowner or a small business owner. I can help you relieve the stress and the pressure causing you to hate somebody else and cause you to love yourself. And now when you love yourself, when your self-esteem increases, if I like me, I can like you. If I love me, I can love you. And the opposite is true. If I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't love me, I'm not going to love you. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'll make your life a living hell. I'm doing this selfishly, Jeff, because I want us to continue to be the light on the hill for the rest of the world. I want America, as imperfect as she is, there's no country like her in the world. I want America to be a role model and a lighthouse and an open door for all those who strive and who are desperate someplace in the world and feel like there's no hope for them. The biggest legal immigrant group in this country, one of 3, are Nigerians. Most successful, by the way, one of the 3 most successful immigrant groups are Nigerians. They're coming here with hustle and hard work, and they're applying it. And wherever you come in the world, this place rewards you if you get the memo. You can go from the bottom to the top, just like me.
Well, let's think. You say memo. Let's kind of create an analogy that there's this box, and in the box, it's a locked box from some people's perspective, is the secrets to wealth, prosperity, a particular lifestyle that some can only dream of because maybe they weren't born into it. They didn't learn those lessons from their parents, and so it creates this, like this constant churn, right? This generational poverty because of there's this box. What you're doing is you're saying, wait a minute, I'm going to unlock the box and let everybody look inside. Yeah. But you're doing a little bit more than that, because a huge portion of your book and your message is that I, meaning you, should not be the only one talking about this. In fact, it should be a mainstay in what students learn. It should be, right, exactly. So let's talk education. Let's talk about specifically schools, teachers, leaders, etc. So you give examples in your book. You don't just talk financial literacy. You talk about the importance of technology, STEM education, etc. You give examples like Singapore, some of the work you're doing here in our backyard in Atlanta. Yep. So, and you talk about how education, I love this term, has sidestepped some of this curriculum and some, what's in that box. So what do you want educational leaders to hear?
You don't have to be intimidated by this topic. If you're financially literate yourself, you can bring a banker in your classroom like I had one during career day. And as a teacher, the kids are learning, you can ear hustle too and learn a little bit yourself. I want you to understand that we're not giving you an unfunded mandate, that I'm working to get this legislation passed at the federal level in the next couple of years is my hope, so that schools get funding for financial literacy education. I want them to understand that this topic, and I believe artificial intelligence, will make education actually relevant to your students. that we have not connected education with aspiration since the agricultural age. Why do you have summers off at school? Think about this now. Because during the agricultural age, you had to go join your family and farm the land. So that's why you have summers off. We're not farming land anymore. There is no agricultural age. I mean, it exists, but it's not driving the economy of the biggest economy in the world. So we're not modernized even our school schedule. But we also have not we have not reconnected education while I'm in school with aspiration, which is doing well after school. And I think it's just that simple that I want to make you relevant. I want you to help me make smart sexy again, make smart cool so kids want to stay in school. So I had this program called Hope Business in a Box Academy in Atlanta, and you mentioned we have a bank account for every kid in Atlanta Public Schools, thanks to Mayor Andre Dickens and the school superintendent and APS Atlanta Public Schools and the City of Atlanta School District School Board. City Hall. The City of Atlanta City Council put up $2 million to put an account, give an account for every kid in kindergarten. Now, when you first hear this, you go, okay, is this really like a kid in kindergarten? Yes. If you give a kid a bank account in kindergarten, they're 50% more likely to go to college, no money in it. You put $50 in that account, they're 75% more likely to graduate from college. Just that one act. And then we wrap financial literacy around it, and let's talk about stocks and bonds on Wall Street. Let's track the compounding interest of stocks over time. Now you've got kids riveted, and they want to learn everything else you got. Teach me math, teach me algebra, teach me English, teach me history. All right, I'm fascinated now. You mean I can make money legally? And you're teaching me? So this financial literacy is not a course, it's a mindset. And that mindset will shift the orientation of every kid in school. So we had this Hope Business in the Box program, middle school kids. You pitch your business idea, Jeff, for 2 minutes, timer on stage because life is short. There are rules. You have 2 minutes, pitch your idea. If you win, you get $500. Money goes into a bank account, get a role model assigned to you, you start your business. Okay. There's competition. In this group of kids, we're competing. And one of my guys in the stall in the restroom, he tells me, John, group came in, kicked the door in the best room. Boom! Bunk this mess. I hate this school. I hate all this. This program ain't nothing. This Operation Hope Business Box. You know we should have won. His friend said, well, the other team had matching uniforms. They looked like they rehearsed. Like they had a plan. They had like printed documents. We just went up there and winged it, Joe. Maybe we can do, I don't know, we could have done better. Joe says, the guy who kicked the door in, that's all right. We're going to win that the next time. Hold on. Bingo. I got you.
Yeah. It's not the winning. Right?
It's the mindset that says, now I'm a fisherman. We had a kid in one of our financial literacy courses in Detroit, and the kid was winging it, just killing it in this financial literacy course. And after the fourth week, like me, the kid was wearing a suit to school. Like I wore a suit to school when I was 9 years old and got beat up every day. But anyway, this kid, Derek, comes out of class, and I follow him out of class. And hey, Derek, I'll give you $70 if you can, you and your friends. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. I follow Derek. His friends come up to him and starts chastising him. Man, why are you going to that stupid class? Why are you listening to this stupid stuff? You need to hang out with us. You need to be cool like us. And so I go and say, look, I'm gonna give you and your friends $70. Make a decision about $70 about Nike. Back then, this was a decade or so ago. And Derek says, I wonder why I share Nike stock. And the kids say, oh, that's stupid. You need to get you some Air Jordans. That's what you want. We all got Air Jordans. Everybody in school is wearing Air Jordans, Future Air Jordans, purple Air Jordans, leather Air Jordans. And I go to defend Derek's honor, Jeff. And I said, Derek, you cool? He said, no. I'm cool. I want them to buy those shoes.
Yeah, that's right.
because when they do, they're making me money. Bingo.
I like this kid.
Mindset.
It's so I haven't, and by the way, you didn't ask for this. As you think about moving forward and creating this movement you describe, right? Specific to creating a mindset in our youth, to create some long lasting, but also individual change for kids, for people in the future. And you talk about it being an unfunded mandate, because there's a lot of that. My recommendation is this: as you move forward, rather than just talking about funding the mandate, the question is, what does it replace? What does the mandate on a mindset that's as relevant as what you're describing, what does it replace? And the only reason I say that is you brought it up. The calendar as an example. There's lots of things that we do in schools, John, and the reason we do them is because that's what we do, right? It's really difficult to change. In the meantime, right, the burden that teachers and administrators are feeling, right? They're dropping like flies. We have mass exodus from education. Yeah. So if you want to make this message sing, it's not so much on how do we make sure it gets funded, it's what does it replace? Meaning, we got to take some things off the plate that may not be as relevant, and yet we're still doing in schools, and replacing it with something that can make a difference for somebody forever as long as they're on this earth, right? And then, by the way, potentially even a future generation. So just think about as you're pitching that message, it's like, what does this replace specific to relevancy? Because your line that you draw in all your messaging, in all your preaching, is very, very straight. It's very clean. It's very clear. So you didn't ask for my advice, but I just think relevancy is something we need to start focusing on because, as one once said, we're preparing kids for their future, not our past. And yet, many of the things we do, as you already mentioned, are based upon our past.
Yeah, I'm not sure the average kid is going to get much use out of trig or calculus. I think the engineer kids will. I think there's a bunch of kids who are specializing in something very technical and measurable that require that. I'm not sure the average kid needs it. Most kids need it. I think most kids, no, everybody needs financial literacy. And so I think we just need to reimagine and have the courage to reimagine our priorities or to upgrade our software. We know when the Apple iPhone came out, it was imperfect. It was 3.0 version, 4.0 version, 4.2, and when 4.2, 4.5, that means that the coders back at Apple were like, oh, we missed something. Oh, we got to make a course correction. Oops, that didn't work. I mean, it is literally is active experimenting. How they know it doesn't work? Because the consumer public is screaming, "What are you idiots doing? That didn't work. That screwed up my screen. Oops. Here's a patch. Here's an upgrade." And so now we're at, I think the last time I checked, we're at iPhone 17 something, I believe, on a software upgrade. It's not about, so the software upgrade exceeds the phone. We're at 18.1 iOS. I've got a 16 phone. I've got an iPhone 16, but my software upgrade is 18.1. Think about that. The software is outrunning the infrastructure. They can't put the phones out fast enough before they're making software upgrades in real time. That's where education has to be. The world's changing, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and that aligns to what you talk about as relates to financial literacy. I mean, it's a nice line. Okay, because I could talk to you for hours. Now, here's one thing though. I haven't read this. I do read, but in looking, you wrote this book, I think in 2009, called Love Leadership. Is that right? Yeah. I have it at home. I just haven't read it yet. So, and so I will read it. But 2009, I just kind of looking through it a little bit. Love creates leaders. Fear fails, love makes money, vulnerability is power, and giving is getting. Those are some of the themes in the book I was able to kind of pull out.
Two things in the world, there's love and there's fear, and what you don't love, you fear. And the reason that we're failing or might fail is that most of our so-called leaders are leading by fear. Does it sound familiar? That was
Well,
book in
that's what I said.
2009.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you wrote this in 2009. So now, right? Fast forward to now. What aspects of what you wrote, and you already mentioned one, like, yeah, that still hits, that aligns. And then has there been anything since then where you think, I have a new thought as it relates to leadership?
No, I mean, look, again, the beautiful part about all this stuff is it's very simple. Look, the only place where fear works sustainably is entertainment. It's called a movie, all right, and they can write the ending, and active entertainment that works in WWE, World Wrestling. Enterprises, WWE. It used to be called WWF, I think. So if you look at that, they are selling a range of things, but they are also institutionalizing a sense of fear. You're going to fear me. I'm stronger than you, and so on and so forth. The domination. That comes from the Roman emperor, Rome's Colosseum engagements, and giving people a chance to shout, scream, vent, have no rules. And okay, but that's only in entertainment, that you leave the stadium. You got to go back to your own life. Here's what I want every listener and viewer to know. The world's 5 billion years old. Organism life, 4 billion years old. The Neanderthal life, a few 100 million years old. Modern human beings, you and me, a couple 100,000 years old. Story of Jesus, 3,000 years old, give or take. There's never been a group of people in the history of the world, bad people, who've lived on fear as their strategy, has ever survived for more than 25 years successfully. In other words, I had a 20-year run, 25-year run selling fear, depriving people, beating up on people, holding down people, abusing, bullying people. That came, you go far enough in the North Pole, you end up south. That's, Caesar came and went. Caligula, I believe his name, came and went. He was worse than Caesar. Osama bin Laden, Putin will come and go, by the way. He's about at the end of his sell-through date, by the way. Stalin came and went. I mean, you can go on and on and on. And here's why. You're sitting with light behind you. There's a reason you're not doing this at night. Light is defined, night is defined by day. Badness is failed goodness. And if anybody listening to this and they're a religious scholar, you'd know that Lucifer is a fallen angel. God gives the devil permission to exist. He's a punk. This world works on hope. That's my message. The fuel of this world is love. Love is the only self-renewing asset in the world. It needs nothing from you. Nothing. Because that's God, in my opinion. It's the universe giving us the gift of life. And as long as we are positive and contributors, we'll get more of it. So it should be selfish to help people succeed because, I think that's what gives your life purpose and meaning, is who have you helped other than yourself?
Well, in a way, you just did what we often do at the end of the show, but we're going to do this anyway because John, most of our systems to support leaders are what we say circles are better than rows. That's a line I stole from our pastor. And the concept is leaders helping leaders. This is really the one content thing that we do. But if you and I were to imagine we're around a table, it's a round table, and with us are superintendents down through principals, and we're having a conversation about this very thing. And the time's running out. And in an elevator, 30-second speech, what do you want to leave them with? Like, this is my drop the mic. This is what I want to leave you with. What do you say? Ready, go.
You're a quarterback in a winning team, but your team is at the last year of their life careers contracts. This team is going to retire, and on the bench are all the next winners of the future. That's the bench strength for the playoff games or the rest of our lives. Those are our kids, K through 12, K through college. Those kids are the bench strength for the playoff games of the rest of our lives, on GDP, economic activity, on families, on farming hope. That's your farm club. That is your pipeline. And our lives and our livelihoods literally depend on you giving them the most assertive, aggressive, powerful, transformational software upgrade available to man anywhere in the world, and shoving it down their throat with an inspirational firecracker lit up there underneath their feet to make them the Steve Jobs and the Oprah Winfreys of this next generation. Every community has a Steve Jobs or an Oprah Winfrey. Every community. And we have got to find them, because America's not a country, she's an idea. And we can make her anything we want. But the one thing we've got to make her is great.
John, I'm so thankful that I was introduced not just to you, but to your message. And let me thank you, not just for this time. First off, thanks for the time. But I think that I want to thank you for the way that you live and lead your vision and mission. I mean, it is very clear. You wear this on your sleeves. It comes across in your words and in your actions, and you are living your leadership message. And I think that is what I hope to bring to educational leaders, along with your concepts of course, literacy, but financial literacy. But it's very clear that you are a man who is convicted, and you are going to help other people. And I just want you to know that I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm humbled by a guy who's as smart and sharp as you, and high frequency as I think you are, to notice. And I want all your listeners and viewers to know that kindness is the new gangster.
Love it.
You can do well and do good at the same time. You can be a good capitalist. And to remember, even if you want to distribute money like a socialist, you have to first collect it like a capitalist.
Well said, my friend. I'm so glad our paths will cross again, John. I promise.
I'm here. We'll be waiting.
Be well.
Peace and light,
ladies and gentlemen. So the message is really clear. I don't really think I can add to that. My hope is this: that when you listen to this, you dig deeper. Rather than listen and think, wow, that was a good message. The question is, what does this mean for you specifically if you are a leader in the educational field? This is a strong message, and it demands a level of action. Ladies, gentlemen, teachers, leaders, be well.